What would you do if the man who promised to protect you became the reason you had to disappear? 6 months pregnant. Amelia Hart-Vale walked into Boston's most exclusive restaurant expecting dinner with her husband Dominic. Vale, the Mafia boss men crossed the street to avoid. Instead, she found him beneath the candlelight holding the hand of Vivienne Mercer, the model whose face covered half the city. Amelia did not scream. She did not beg. She went home, placed her wedding ring on a letter, and vanished before midnight. But this is not only a story about betrayal. It is about the difference between love and ownership, the cost of silence, and whether a man raised to control everything can change before he loses the only family that ever made him human. Stay until the end. Like the video and comment where you are watching from. The question on Dominic Vale's phone still hung in the silence. What did you do? Across Boston Harbor, dawn had not yet broken. The city remained a field of black glass and distant lights, unaware that the most feared man in Massachusetts was standing barefoot beside a desk holding a letter that had reduced his empire to paper and ash. Amelia's ring rested beneath his thumb. 3 years earlier, she had not known enough to fear him. That was the first thing Dominic remembered. He had walked into the library at St. Matthew's Elementary expecting Camera's gratitude and a carefully arranged photograph for the Vale Foundation. Federal investigators had begun asking uncomfortable questions about one of his construction companies, and his mother believed children made useful scenery when powerful men needed to look harmless. Dominic arrived 20 minutes late. The principal met him near the entrance with both hands extended and an apology already forming. Before she could speak, a woman in a blue sweater crossed the room carrying a stack of picture books. "You are late," she said. The principal's smile collapsed. Dominic looked at the woman. She was not dressed for donors or photographs. Her brown hair had been pinned back without much success, and loose strands framed a face that held more impatience than caution. There was green marker on the side of her hand. A silver cross rested against her throat. A little boy tugged at her sleeve. "Miss Hart, I cannot find the turtle book. It is on the reading rug beside the man who has not sat down yet." The boy looked at Dominic, then at the rug. Dominic had spent the morning with a union representative who had forgotten the value of keeping promises. There was a faint cut across one knuckle beneath his glove. 2 armed men waited outside the school. Every adult in the library knew his name. The woman seemed more concerned about sea turtles. "I had business," Dominic said. "So do we." She placed the books in his arms. "The children leave in 15 minutes. If you came for the photograph stand beside the banner, if you came to help take off your coat and sit with the 3rd graders." Silence spread through the room. The principal whispered Amelia. Dominic caught the name. Amelia Hart. He should have smiled, written the check, and left. Instead, something in her expression caught him. She was not pretending to be brave. She simply did not consider his pride more important than the children waiting on the carpet. Dominic removed his coat. He sat. 15 children stared at him as though a wolf had entered story hour and agreed to behave. Amelia handed him a book about a sea turtle crossing the Atlantic. "Try not to sound like you are reading a confession under oath." One of the children laughed. Dominic looked up at her. She did not look away. He began again, this time with less force in his voice. By the 3rd page, the children had moved closer. By the last page, a girl with pink glasses was leaning against his arm. When the bell rang, the children scattered toward their teachers. Dominic remained seated for another moment, the book open across his knee. Amelia gathered crayons from the floor. "You survived," she said. "Was that in doubt? With men like you, boredom is usually more dangerous than difficulty." He stood and handed her the book. "You speak to every donor this way, only the ones who arrive expecting applause." Dominic studied her. Most people tried to understand what he wanted before he entered a room. Amelia had decided what the room needed before he arrived. That difference followed him home. 2 days later, St. Matthew's received enough money to replace every damaged shelf in the library. A week later, workers repaired the playground. Before the first snow boxes of winter coats arrived for students whose families could not afford them, Amelia sent formal thank you letters to the Vale Foundation. She never sent one to Dominic. He returned to the school under the excuse of reviewing the scholarship program. Amelia was carrying a wooden crate down an empty hallway. "You could let someone help you," he said. "I could." She kept walking. He took the crate from her hands. She let him, which felt like a victory until she added, "Most people who offer help are really asking to be admired. And what do you think I am asking for?" She pushed open the library door. "To believe you are better than the stories people tell about you." Dominic set the crate on a table. "Do you believe those stories? I believe fear has a reason. You are not afraid." Amelia brushed dust from her palms. "I know where the exits are." He should have found that insulting. Instead, he smiled. Their first meeting outside the school was supposed to concern a reading scholarship. Amelia chose a crowded cafe in Cambridge, arrived early, and bought her own tea before Dominic entered. He noticed the security camera above the front door. She noticed him noticing it. "You chose this table because you can see the entrance," he said. "I chose it because the tea is good. And the camera. That is useful too." Dominic sat across from her in a charcoal coat that cost more than the cafe's monthly rent. "You think you need protection from me?" "I think every woman should know how to leave a room." There was no accusation in her voice. That made the sentence land harder. He told her careful pieces of himself. His family owned shipping companies, restaurants, construction firms, and private security businesses. Some operated in gray areas. Others had crossed far beyond gray before he inherited them. His father, Anthony Vale, had taught him that hesitation invited blood. His mother, Celeste, had taught him that affection created leverage. Amelia listened without trying to rescue him from his own history. When he finished, she stirred honey into her tea. "You tell the truth like a man negotiating how much of it I am allowed to hear." Dominic leaned back. "That is still more truth than most people receive. Then most people should ask better questions." He laughed. The sound surprised them both. When he asked about her life, Amelia gave him no edited version. Her mother had died when Amelia was 17. Her father, Thomas Hart, later suffered a stroke, leaving Amelia and her younger sister Tessa struggling to cover his care. Amelia worked through college and chose school libraries because children often admitted what they needed while pretending to ask for a book. Dominic did not understand how a life could be difficult without becoming cruel. Amelia made him want to understand. He began taking her to dinner. She refused the restaurants where no prices appeared on the menu. On their third real date, they walked beside the Charles River after dinner. Wind came hard across the water, twisting Amelia's scarf loose. Dominic reached to fix it. Her body went still for half a second. He noticed. He noticed everything. "I would never hurt you," he said. Amelia looked toward the dark river. Men say that as if hurt only means hands. The wind carried the words between them. Dominic lowered his arm. "My life is not clean. I know. You should be afraid of that." "I am." He looked at her. She continued, "I am also afraid of people who believe they have no darkness. They usually make everyone else carry it." For once, Dominic had no practiced answer. He kissed her beneath the bare trees while the city moved behind them. Amelia kissed him back with both hands against his coat, as if she knew exactly how dangerous the choice was, and had made it anyway. Celeste Vale met Amelia at the family estate in Marblehead. The house stood above the Atlantic behind iron gates and stone walls darkened by winter rain. It had been built by Dominic's grandfather and renovated by every generation without ever becoming warm. Portraits watched from the entrance hall. Men in black suits appeared and disappeared through side doors. Amelia paused beneath a painting of Anthony Vale. Dominic's father had a broad face, severe eyes, and one hand resting on the shoulder of a much younger Dominic. "You look unhappy," Amelia said. Dominic followed her gaze. He believed happiness made men careless. And did it? He died before I could ask. Celeste entered before Amelia could respond. She wore ivory silk and pearls. Her silver hair was arranged so precisely that even age appeared to have requested permission. She kissed Dominic on both cheeks. Then she looked at Amelia. "So you are the librarian?" Amelia smiled politely. "And you are Dominic's mother?" Celeste's mouth curved. "For the moment, we both possess accurate information." Dinner was served at a table long enough to turn conversation into ceremony. Celeste asked where Amelia's family spent the summer. We did not. Which private schools had she attended public ones? Would she leave her position now that Dominic could provide for her? No. Celeste placed her wine glass down. "You answer quickly." I understood the questions. Dominic glanced at Amelia, almost amused. Celeste noticed. That was the first mistake Amelia made without realizing it. She allowed Celeste to see that Dominic could still be surprised by someone. After dinner, Dominic received a phone call and stepped into the study. Celeste found Amelia alone near the staircase. Rain moved against the tall windows. The household staff had disappeared with the quiet efficiency of people trained not to witness family conversations. Celeste stopped beside Amelia and looked toward the portraits. "Do you know what happens to women who marry into families like ours?" Amelia kept her voice calm. "They become family." Celeste smiled without warmth. "No, they become useful or they become dangerous." Amelia turned to face her. "Which one were you?" For the first time that evening, Celeste's expression changed. Only slightly. It was enough. Footsteps sounded from the study. Dominic returned, slipping his phone into his pocket, ready to go. Amelia looked at Celeste. Then she nodded. In the car, Dominic asked whether his mother had said anything. Amelia watched rain slide down the window. Nothing important. It was the first time she protected the relationship by swallowing the truth. It would not be the last. Dominic proposed 8 months after they met. He returned to the St. Matthew's Library after closing and arranged for Amelia to find him standing between the reading rug and the new shelves. Snow touched the windows. Children's drawings hung from string above his head. Amelia stopped when she saw the small ring box in his hand. "You are ambushing me beside the alphabet section. I was told you dislike spectacle. I dislike being manipulated in educational spaces." Dominic's smile was nervous. He opened the box. Inside was a plain gold ring. No diamonds. No family crest. No display of wealth. "I am not a good man," he said. Amelia's face softened, but she did not interrupt. "I have done things you would hate if you knew their full shape. I cannot promise that loving you will erase who I am. Then what are you promising? That when I am with you, I remember there might have been another version of me before all of this?" Amelia looked at the ring. "That is not the same as changing." "No." His voice lowered. "But wanting to change is the first honest thing I have ever owned." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. Fear remained in her chest beside the love. Both were real. She said yes. They married in a stone chapel outside Boston. Tessa stood beside Amelia in a simple blue dress. Celeste sat in the front row wearing silver, her expression composed enough for a funeral. Dominic held Amelia's hands carefully during the vows. When the priest asked whether he would honor and cherish her, his answer came without hesitation. I will." For the first year, he tried. He touched Amelia as though reverence was a language his body understood, even when his world did not. Amelia began to believe tenderness could survive inside a dangerous man. Then the calls after midnight became more frequent. Dominic stopped answering questions with details. "Where were you?" "It is handled." "Why is there blood on your cuff?" "It is handled." "Why did 3 men wait outside the nursery consultation?" "It is handled." "Why did your mother replace the dining table without asking me?" "I will handle it." Those words entered every room. Dominic believed they were reassurance. Amelia heard a locked door. At a museum fundraiser, Celeste leaned close while cameras flashed across the room. "You smile too openly." Amelia kept her eyes on the auction stage. "I thought that was the purpose of smiling. The purpose is control. Familiarity makes people careless." Amelia turned toward her. "That explains yours." Celeste said nothing. Dominic heard about the exchange before they reached the car. "You do not have to provoke her," he said while the driver pulled away. Amelia stared at him. "She insulted me. She tests everyone. I am not everyone. I know. I am your wife. I know that too." He sounded exhausted. Amelia looked out at the city. Knowing had become Dominic's substitute for choosing. When Amelia discovered she was pregnant, she waited until Dominic came home to tell him. She placed the test on his desk beside his phone. He stared at it. Then he looked at her. For the first time since she had known him, all calculation disappeared from his face. "Are you sure the doctor confirmed it this morning?" Dominic crossed the room and dropped to his knees before her. He pressed his forehead against her stomach, though there was nothing yet to feel. His shoulders shook once. Amelia placed her hands in his hair. "I will keep both of you safe," he whispered. For 1 week he came home early. He began building the crib himself and refused help from the staff. Amelia found him sitting on the nursery floor, surrounded by screws and pieces of pale wood. "You have attached the same panel backward twice. The instructions are hostile. The instructions are pictures." "Exactly." She laughed and took the screwdriver from him. He attended the first ultrasound and stared at the screen with wet eyes. "That is her heartbeat," he asked. The technician smiled. "That is your baby." Dominic reached for Amelia's hand. For 1 fragile hour, the future seemed possible. Then a shipment vanished near the harbor. A union official threatened to cooperate with federal investigators. One of Dominic's captains disappeared with $2 million. The calls returned. The crib remained unfinished. Dominic missed the next appointment. Amelia sat alone in the examination room while the doctor moved the monitor across her stomach. Their daughter turned toward the sound. The doctor printed 2 photographs. Amelia placed one in her purse and left the second on Dominic's pillow. He came home after 2 a.m. carrying a velvet box. Inside was a diamond bracelet. Amelia left it on the dresser. "I did not need jewelry." Dominic loosened his tie. "I know I missed the appointment. You missed hearing your daughter's heartbeat. I was protecting our business." "No. You were protecting the life that existed before us." His face closed. "You knew what I was when you married me." Amelia felt the sentence strike somewhere deep. "I knew what you had done. I did not know you would ask me to live behind it." Dominic's phone rang. The screen showed Celeste's name. Neither of them moved. It rang again. Dominic answered. Amelia stood alone in the nursery doorway, one hand resting over the child who had begun to move inside her. At the Vale estate, 2 weeks later, Celeste served dinner as though nothing in the family had shifted. When the plates were cleared, she folded her hands beside her wine glass. "The Mercers are prepared to expand their shipping partnership." Dominic's expression sharpened. "Conrad Mercer does not offer partnerships. He offers chains. Chains are useful when both parties hold the key." Amelia watched them. Celeste continued. Conrad wants a public sign of trust. His daughter has agreed to become the face of our winter charity campaign. Dominic looked toward the dark windows. Amelia already knew the name before Celeste spoke it. Everyone in America did, Vivienne Mercer Celeste said. The model's face covered perfume advertisements, fashion magazines, and billboards from Boston to Manhattan. Celeste lifted her glass and looked directly at Amelia. Some women understand how to stand beside power without asking it to become smaller. Dominic said nothing. Amelia felt her daughter move beneath her ribs. Across the table, Celeste smiled as though the first piece had finally been placed exactly where she wanted it. Celeste's smile remained across the table. Vivienne Mercer. The name settled into the dining room with the weight of something expensive and dangerous. Amelia had seen her face before. Everyone had. Vivienne appeared above city streets in perfume campaigns, across glossy magazine covers, and inside department store windows where her image seemed untouched by weather, hunger, or consequence. Dominic lowered his glass. The charity campaign does not require her to attend private meetings. Celeste cut into her salmon with precise movements. Public confidence requires more than signatures. It requires results. It requires a story people understand. Amelia looked from mother to son. And what story are they supposed to understand? Celeste turned toward her. That two powerful families trust one another. Families do not usually need models to prove that. Dominic's mouth tightened. Amelia. She looked at him. There was no anger in his voice, only warning. A quiet request not to make the evening more difficult. That hurt more than Celeste's expression. Amelia placed her napkin beside her plate. I am tired. Dominic stood immediately. We will go. Celeste watched them leave without objecting. Outside, the wind off the Atlantic cut through Amelia's coat. Dominic opened the car door for her, but she remained on the stone steps. You knew about Vivienne. I knew Conrad Mercer wanted a partnership. That was not what I asked. Dominic glanced toward the driver, then back at her. Get in the car. Answer me first. His jaw flexed. Yes, I knew she might be involved in the campaign. And you did not think to mention it. It was not important. Amelia looked at the house behind him, its windows glowing against the dark. To your mother it was important enough to announce over dinner while looking directly at me. Dominic lowered his voice. Do not let her provoke you. That is easy for you to say. She is not trying to remove you from your own marriage. No one is removing you. Then why does it feel like every room in that house already has a place for everyone except me? Dominic stepped closer. You are my wife. Amelia laughed softly. You keep saying that as if the title protects me. It does. From whom? The question stopped him. For 1 second, the only sound between them was the wind moving through the bare trees. Dominic opened the car door again. Let us go home. Amelia got inside. The drive back to Boston passed in silence. 3 days later, Vivienne appeared at the Vale Foundation Winter Campaign launch. The event took place inside a restored theater near Beacon Hill. Crystal lights hung above a room filled with politicians, donors, business owners, and reporters. Amelia stood beside Dominic near the entrance. She wore a dark blue gown Celeste had selected and sent to the penthouse without asking. Vivienne arrived beneath a storm of camera flashes. She wore white. Her blonde hair fell in polished waves over one shoulder. Diamonds rested against her throat. Every movement appeared effortless, though Amelia noticed the way Vivienne checked the room before smiling. Celeste crossed the floor to greet her. Perfect, she said. Vivienne kissed Celeste's cheek. Then she turned to Dominic. Mr. Vale, Miss Mercer. Her smile became warmer. Our families have discussed one another for years. It is nice to finally meet the man behind the warnings. Dominic did not return the smile. Warnings are usually more useful than introductions. Vivienne glanced at Amelia. You must be Amelia. The familiarity of her tone made Amelia's skin tighten. I must be. Vivienne looked briefly at Amelia's stomach. Congratulations. Thank you. Celeste stepped between them with a hand on Vivienne's arm. The photographers are ready. The campaign photographs placed Dominic and Vivienne together beneath the foundation banner. Amelia was told to stand at Dominic's other side. A photographer adjusted their positions. Mr. Vale turned slightly toward Miss Mercer. Dominic obeyed. Closer, please. Vivienne moved one step nearer. Amelia could smell her perfume. Mrs. Vale, the photographer, said, Place your hand on your husband's arm. Amelia did. Dominic covered her fingers with his. For a moment, the gesture steadied her. Then Celeste spoke from behind the camera. Vivienne should stand in the center. She is the face of the campaign. The photographer rearranged them. Amelia was moved to the edge. The camera flashed. In the final photograph published the next morning, Dominic and Vivienne stood side by side. Amelia's body was visible only from the shoulder down. She stared at the image on her phone while Dominic dressed for work. Do you see it? He fastened his watch. It is a photograph. I've been cut out of it. You are still there. Part of me is. Dominic looked at the screen. It is publicity, Amelia. That is what your mother wants you to believe, that none of it matters because it is only business. It is only business. Amelia set the phone down. Then why does business keep asking me to disappear? Dominic stopped adjusting his cuff. His eyes met hers in the mirror. You are making this personal. She is making it personal. Vivienne has done nothing to you. This is not about Vivienne. Then what is it about Amelia? Looked at him. You know. Dominic's phone began to ring. He checked the screen. Celeste. Neither of them moved. The ringing stopped. A moment later it started again. Dominic answered. Amelia walked into the nursery and closed the door behind her. Over the following weeks, Vivienne's name entered their life with quiet persistence. There was a dinner with donors at a private club, a press conference near the harbor, a meeting with Conrad Mercer's attorneys, a photograph outside an auction house, a magazine interview about the Vale Foundation and its commitment to rebuilding neighborhoods. Every appearance placed Dominic beside Vivienne. Every explanation sounded the same. It was business. It was temporary. It meant nothing. Amelia began to understand that things did not have to mean anything to Dominic in order to wound her. One Thursday morning, she stood in the nursery, folding small white shirts across the unfinished crib. Dominic appeared in the doorway. His tie was loose. Shadows sat beneath his eyes. I will be late tonight. You were late last night. I know. And the night before. He rubbed one hand across his face. The Mercer agreement is more complicated than expected. Have you met with her alone? Dominic's hand fell. With Vivienne? Yes. No. Amelia continued folding. Do not lie to me. His expression hardened. I said no. She looked up. He was offended by the question, not wounded by the mistrust. That difference frightened her. Then why did you have to think before answering I did not? You did. Dominic stepped into the room. You are tired. Do not make my pregnancy the reason I notice things. I am not. You are treating me like I cannot trust my own judgment. I am telling you the truth. Amelia placed the folded shirt into a drawer. Truth should not require me to become quieter in order to believe it. Dominic stared at her. His phone rang. He took it from his pocket. This time he left the room before answering. Amelia sat beside the unfinished crib. Their daughter kicked against her palm. "I know," she whispered. The next week, Dominic promised to attend another medical appointment. Amelia waited alone beneath the pale lights of the examination room. The clock moved past 2, then 2:15, then 2:30. The doctor entered with an apologetic expression. "Would you like to reschedule?" Amelia looked at the empty chair beside her. "No, we can continue." The monitor filled the room with the quick rhythm of the baby's heartbeat. Amelia stared at the screen. A tiny hand moved near the child's face. The doctor smiled. "She is active today." Amelia nodded. Her throat had closed. When she returned home, Dominic was already there. A velvet box waited on the kitchen counter. He stood near the windows with a phone pressed to his ear. Amelia placed her purse down. Dominic ended the call. "I am sorry." She looked at the box. "What is that A bracelet? I know what a bracelet looks like. I missed the appointment. So you bought me something. I wanted to make it up to you." Amelia opened the box. Diamonds caught the light. She closed it again. "You cannot replace a memory you did not bother to make. I did not forget. You did not arrive. There was a problem at the docks. There is always a problem at the docks. People could have died." Amelia's eyes burned. Your daughter's heart was beating in a room where her father's chair was empty. Dominic went still. "That is not fair." "No, it is not." He walked toward her. "I am trying to protect the life we have. You are protecting everything except the life inside this house." His face closed. "You knew who I was?" The words entered the room and changed its shape. Amelia stared at him. There were sentences a marriage could survive. There were others that revealed what the marriage had been surviving all along. "I knew your name," she said. "I knew your family. I knew there were things you would not tell me. I did not know you would use all of that to excuse every way you failed me." Dominic opened his mouth. The phone rang again. "Celeste." Amelia laughed once. "Answer her!" "Amelia, answer your wife." He looked at the screen. The ringing continued. Dominic turned the phone off. It should have meant something. It did not. A week later, Celeste met Vivienne in a private suite at the Beaumont Hotel. Rain traced the tall windows. Boston moved below them beneath a gray sky. Vivienne stood near the fireplace with her arms folded. "I have done the campaign," she said. "I have attended the dinners. I have smiled beside him. What else do you want?" Celeste poured tea. "Conrad's investigation is widening. My father said you could contain it." "I can." "Then do it." Celeste placed the pot down. "Protection requires cooperation." Vivienne's expression tightened. "You told me this was about appearances." "It is." "What kind of appearance?" Celeste sat. "One that Amelia Vale will understand." Vivienne remained standing. "You want me to seduce him?" Dominic would not allow it. There was pride in Celeste's voice. Vivienne noticed. "Then why involve me?" "Because his wife does not need proof. She needs an image she cannot forget." Vivienne looked toward the rain. "I am not destroying a pregnant woman's marriage." Celeste stirred her tea. "Your brother has been moving money through your father's European accounts." Vivienne turned. "He has nothing to do with this. He has everything to do with whatever I decide matters." Color left Vivienne's face. Celeste continued. "Federal agents already have enough to arrest him. Your father would sacrifice him before allowing the Mercer name to suffer. You said you would protect my family." "I said I could." Vivienne's hands curled at her sides. "What do you want me to do?" Celeste looked up. "Sit across from Dominic at the Aurelia room next Thursday. And Amelia. She believes she is having dinner with her husband." Vivienne stared at her. "You arranged that too." Celeste lifted the cup. "I arrange everything. Thursday arrived beneath heavy snow. That morning, Dominic stood in the bedroom fastening his watch while Amelia sat on the edge of the bed with both hands beneath her stomach. The baby had moved throughout the night. Dominic watched Amelia in the mirror. "Dinner tonight." She looked up. "With whom?" "With me." Her expression changed so quickly that shame touched him. Hope should not have looked so rare on his wife's face. "Just us?" she asked. "Just us?" "Where the Aurelia room?" Amelia smiled faintly. "That place does not have reservations. I know the owner. You are the owner's problem." Dominic almost smiled. He crossed the room and placed his hand against her belly. Their daughter kicked. His entire face softened. "Strong girl. She misses you." Dominic closed his eyes. "I know. Do you?" He opened them. The question remained between them. His phone rang on the dresser. Celeste. Dominic ignored it. It rang again. Amelia stood. "You should answer. I said tonight is ours." The ringing stopped. Dominic bent and kissed her forehead. "I will meet you there at 8. He left. By 4 that afternoon, Celeste summoned him to the Marblehead estate. Conrad Mercer was threatening to withdraw from the shipping agreement. 2 state officials had arrived unexpectedly. A federal subpoena had been delivered to a Vale company that morning. Dominic stood in Celeste's study with snow melting across his shoulders. "I have dinner with Amelia." Celeste did not look up from the documents. "You can play husband after you protect the family. I am not canceling. No one asked you to." She slid an envelope across the desk. "The meeting is at the Aurelia room." Dominic stared at her. "You knew." "I made the reservation. For Amelia and me. For the family." He leaned forward. "If you arrange this to embarrass her, I will end the Mercer agreement tonight." Celeste finally looked at him. "If you end it, the port investigation reaches every company bearing your name. Then let it. Do not mistake emotion for courage." Dominic took the envelope. "You do not involve Amelia." Celeste's expression remained calm. "She involved herself when she married you." Dominic arrived at the restaurant before 7. Vivienne was already seated inside the private booth. She wore black. No photographers waited outside. No charity banners stood behind them. Dominic stopped beside the table. "Where is Conrad?" "He is coming. My mother said officials would be here." "They are." Vivienne gestured to the empty seat. Dominic remained standing. "What did she promise you?" Vivienne's eyes flicked toward the entrance. "Sit down." "No." "Then leave." Dominic studied her. Fear moved beneath her composure. He sat. Within minutes, the booth filled. Conrad Mercer arrived with attorneys. 2 port officials followed. A state judge Dominic disliked but could not ignore joined them. Contracts appeared. Voices lowered. Numbers were discussed. Threats were spoken in language polished enough to resemble cooperation. Dominic checked his watch. 7:30. He reached for his phone. Celeste's message waited on the screen. "Amelia has been informed that dinner is delayed." Dominic stared at the words. Something felt wrong. He typed Amelia's name. Before he could call, Conrad placed a document in front of him. "This requires your signature tonight." Dominic did not look down. "My wife is coming." Conrad glanced at Vivienne. "Then we should finish quickly." The meeting continued. At 7:50, the officials left. Then the judge. Then Conrad and his attorneys. Dominic stood. "This agreement is over." Vivienne remained seated. "You cannot leave yet. Watch me." She reached across the table and caught his wrist. "My brother is cooperating with federal investigators." Dominic looked down at her hand. "What?" "He has names. Accounts. Roots. Why are you telling me?" "Because Celeste promised to protect him." Dominic's eyes narrowed. "My mother does not protect people. She owns them." I know that now. Vivienne opened her palm. A name had been written across the skin in black ink, one of Dominic's captains, a man who had access to shipping schedules, cash transfers, and private residences. Dominic took Vivienne's hand to read the name. Across the dining room, the host led Amelia between the tables. Vivienne saw her first. She could have pulled away. She could have warned Dominic. Instead, she remembered her brother. She left her hand inside his. Amelia stopped. Candlelight touched her face. One hand rested beneath her stomach. The other held the edge of her coat. Her eyes moved from Vivienne's fingers to Dominic's face. Dominic followed Vivienne's gaze. Amelia. The word carried across the room. She did not answer. Dominic released Vivienne and stepped out of the booth. Wait. Amelia turned. Vivienne caught his sleeve. Dominic, the name on my hand. He looked back for 1 second. Only one. When he faced the dining room again, Amelia was already at the door. Dominic followed. Snow struck his face as he reached the street. A taxi pulled away from the curb. Through the rear window, he saw Amelia's profile for half a breath. Then she disappeared into traffic. By the time Dominic reached the penthouse, the bedroom closet stood open. Amelia was closing a suitcase. What are you doing? Leaving. What you saw was not what it looked like. She laughed without humor. You were holding her hand. She had information written on it. That sounds almost believable. It is the truth. The truth arrived too late. Dominic removed his coat. My mother arranged the meeting, and you stayed. There were officials present, and you stayed. Amelia, listen to me. I have been listening for 3 years. She lifted the suitcase from the bed. Dominic moved into the doorway. You are not leaving tonight. Her face changed. Not because he shouted. He did not. Not because he threatened her. He did not need to. The room knew his authority before he used it. So this is who you are when I stop agreeing with you. You are pregnant. You are angry. It is snowing. I am still allowed to leave. We will speak when you are calm. I am calm enough to know I do not want my daughter learning that a locked door is love. Dominic's expression hardened. I am trying to protect you. From what? From making a decision you will regret. Amelia looked at him. You believe every decision is dangerous unless you control it. She stepped forward. Move. No. The word was quiet. Amelia's heart began to pound. The baby shifted. Dominic's eyes fell to her stomach. The hardness in his face broke. Amelia moved around him. He caught her wrist. Not hard. Enough. She looked down at his fingers. Let go. Listen to me. Let go of me, Dominic. He released her. She walked to his desk. A letter lay beneath her wedding ring. Dominic stared at it. When did you write that? When I realized I needed words you could not interrupt. She took her suitcase. At the door, she looked back. I did not leave because of Vivienne. Then why? Because I finally saw every silence that brought me to that table. The elevator doors opened. Amelia stepped inside. Dominic followed her into the hall. Amelia. She pressed the button. If you wanted a wife who could be managed, you should not have married a woman who remembered how to leave. The doors closed. Hours later, Dominic sat alone at his desk and unfolded the letter. Amelia's handwriting remained steady until the final page. He read every line. She wrote about Celeste, about the missed appointments, about the nursery, about the way Dominic placed his hand on her back in public so other men understood she belonged to him, then failed to stand beside her when she needed to feel chosen. She wrote about his grip around her wrist. She wrote about their daughter. Then he reached the final paragraph. I still love you. That is the most painful truth I own. But I cannot raise our daughter in a home where silence is called loyalty and control is called protection. Do not search for the woman who spent 3 years waiting for you to choose her. She no longer exists. If you ever find me, it will not be because your name opened the door. It will be because I chose to let you in. Dominic read the last line twice. His phone rang. Celeste. He answered. What did you tell Vivienne to do? Celeste did not hesitate. I gave your wife clarity. You set her up. I showed you what happens when a woman is not suited to this family. Dominic's hand tightened around the phone. My wife is gone. Then perhaps she finally understood her place. Dominic ended the call. A knock sounded at the study door. His security chief entered holding a sealed envelope. Dominic looked up. What is that? The man placed it on the desk. Your mother hired Grant Ellison this morning. Dominic knew the name. Every powerful family in Boston knew it. Grant did not handle divorces. He handled custody wars that required reputations to be destroyed before a judge entered the room. Dominic stared at the envelope. Amelia had been gone less than 12 hours. Celeste had already begun preparing to take the child. Dominic stared at the sealed envelope on his desk while dawn pressed a thin gray line across Boston Harbor. Grant Ellison's name was printed in black across the front. There were lawyers who settled marriages. There were lawyers who protected children. Grant Ellison destroyed people so completely that courts mistook the ruins for evidence. Dominic opened the envelope. Inside was a draft petition claiming Amelia had abandoned the marital home during pregnancy, refused contact with her husband, and placed the unborn child at risk by traveling without medical supervision. At the bottom of the first page, Dominic's name appeared beside the words, "Concerned Father." He had never authorized it. Who gave this to you? He asked. His security chief, Marcus Hale, remained near the door. One of Ellison's assistants. Why, he has worked for us before. He thought you should know what your mother was filing in your name. Dominic read the page again. His voice became quiet. Find Amelia. Marcus did not move. You want her brought back? Dominic looked toward the letter on the desk. Amelia's final sentence seemed to stare back at him. If you ever find me, it will not be because your name opened the door. No, Dominic said. Find out whether she is safe. And if she refuses contact, Dominic folded the petition. Then no one touches her. Hours earlier, Amelia sat beside a train window with her coat folded over her stomach. Boston disappeared behind her in scattered lights. Her phone had not stopped vibrating until she turned it off. Every missed call felt like Dominic's hand closing around her wrist again. The train car was nearly empty. A college student slept with headphones pressed over his ears. An older woman read beneath a small overhead light. Across the aisle, a mother fed crackers to a restless child, one at a time. Amelia watched them. The child dropped a cracker. The mother picked it up without irritation. The simplicity of the gesture broke something inside her. The first tear slid down Amelia's cheek. She wiped it away. Then another came. By the time the train crossed into Maine, she was crying silently into her sleeve, one hand wrapped around the ultrasound photograph inside her purse. Tessa Hart lived above a bakery in Portland. The apartment was narrow, warm, and permanently scented with cinnamon coffee and rising bread. When Tessa opened the door, she wore wool socks and an old college sweatshirt. Her expression changed before Amelia spoke. She looked at the suitcase, then the bare ring finger, then Amelia's face. What did he do? Amelia stood in the hallway with snow melting in her hair. Enough. Tessa stepped aside. There were people who demanded explanations because uncertainty made them uncomfortable. Tessa made room. She took Amelia's coat and hung it over a chair. She put water on the stove. She found extra blankets and moved a stack of bakery invoices from the couch without asking questions. Only when Amelia sat with both hands over her stomach did Tessa lower herself beside her. "Did he hurt you?" Amelia shook her head. "Not the way people photograph." Tessa's mouth tightened. "It still counts." The kettle began to whistle. Neither woman moved. Amelia stared at the floorboards. "I thought I was being patient." "You were surviving." "I kept telling myself that love required understanding." Tessa waited. "I understood his work, his silence, his mother, every dinner he missed, every question he refused to answer. I understood until there was almost nothing left of me that needed understanding." Tessa reached for her hand. "You are here now." Amelia looked at her sister. "I do not know how long I can stay. You can stay until the building falls down. You cannot afford another person. I cannot afford the pastries I throw away every night either, but no one lectures them." Amelia almost smiled. The effort hurt. Tessa squeezed her fingers. "We will do this 1 hour at a time." Amelia's face folded. She bent forward as far as her stomach allowed and began to sob. Tessa wrapped both arms around her. "I am so tired," Amelia whispered. "I know. I am so angry. I know. I still love him." Tessa closed her eyes. "I know that too." For 2 days, Dominic did not come. Amelia told herself he was giving her space. Then she told herself pride had stopped him. Then she remembered that Dominic Vale had never lost anything, without first deciding whether it could be purchased, threatened, or taken back. On the 3rd morning, white lilies arrived at the bakery. The delivery boy stood in the doorway holding a vase almost as large as his chest. Mrs. Vale Amelia stared at the flowers. Tessa appeared behind her. "No." The boy blinked. "I only deliver them." Amelia took the card. There were no words, only Dominic's signature. She handed the card back. "Take them to a hospital." The boy looked confused. "What? Someone there needs them more than I do." By noon, roses arrived. Then a velvet box containing a bracelet Amelia had once admired in a shop window and forgotten. Then an envelope. "Come home. I can fix this." Tessa read the note over Amelia's shoulder. He still thinks love is something he can have delivered. Amelia folded the paper once. He thinks guilt can be gift-wrapped. She placed it inside a kitchen drawer. That evening, a black vehicle stopped outside the bakery. Amelia heard the engine before she saw it. Expensive cars carried a particular kind of silence, smooth, controlled, and wrong for narrow streets where delivery trucks rattled over potholes. Tessa looked through the curtain. "He is here." Amelia stood at the kitchen counter slicing an apple she no longer wanted. The knife stopped against the cutting board. 3 knocks sounded at the door. Firm. Measured. Tessa crossed the room and opened it only as far as the chain allowed. Dominic stood in the hall wearing a dark coat. His hair was damp with snow. Stubble shadowed his face, and exhaustion had carved hollows beneath his eyes. He looked past Tessa. "I need to speak to Amelia. She does not want to speak to you. She is my wife. Your wife needed to speak to you for 3 years." Dominic's expression hardened. "Tessa, you do not get to say my name like we are family while my sister is hiding in my kitchen trying not to shake." Amelia closed her eyes. Dominic lowered his voice. "She is carrying my child." Tessa did not move. "She was carrying your heart, too. You only noticed the part someone might take from you." Silence filled the hallway. Amelia gripped the edge of the counter. She imagined Dominic looking at the chain across the door. In Boston, doors were meaningful only until he decided they were inconvenient. One phone call could bring the landlord. Another could bring the police. A third could uncover every unpaid tax, late bill, and old mistake attached to Tessa's name. Amelia waited for his pressure to enter the room. It did not. Dominic spoke toward the narrow opening. "I know my mother arranged the restaurant." Amelia's eyes opened. Tessa glanced over her shoulder. Dominic continued. "I know she used Vivienne. I did not know what she planned." Amelia stepped closer but remained out of sight. Tessa said, "You knew what kind of woman your mother was." "I did. You simply believed Amelia would continue paying the price." Dominic's face changed. The words reached him. "I did not want her hurt." Amelia almost laughed. Intentions. Powerful men loved intentions because intentions left their hands clean. Tessa began to close the door. Dominic stepped back. He did not touch it. He did not call anyone. He did not use his name. "Tell her I will not stop trying," he said. Tessa met his eyes. Trying to change is not the same as trying to bring her back. Dominic stood in the hall for another moment. Then he turned and walked away. Tessa closed the door. Amelia placed the knife down before her hand betrayed her. "He looked terrible," Tessa said softly. "Good." The word tasted like blood. The following morning, Amelia received a call from an unknown number. She sat alone at the kitchen table while Tessa worked downstairs. Snow tapped softly against the window. Amelia almost ignored the call. Then, an instinct sharpened by years inside the Vale family made her answer. "Hello?" Celeste's voice entered the room. "How quickly you forget the name you married." Amelia tightened her hand around the phone. "What do you want a conversation? I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen." Amelia stared at the wall. Celeste continued. "I know what you saw at the restaurant. More importantly, I know why you saw it." The apartment seemed to narrow. "What did you do?" Celeste named a hotel tea room near the Portland waterfront. Noon. "Come alone." The call ended. Tessa begged Amelia not to go. Amelia went anyway. The hotel was old enough to treat its ghosts as decoration. Brass railings curved beside marble stairs. Women spoke quietly over porcelain cups. A pianist played near the windows while snow moved across the harbor beyond the glass. Celeste sat at a corner table wearing a cream coat and black gloves. She did not stand when Amelia approached. "You look pale." "I am pregnant and living from a suitcase." A small smile touched Celeste's mouth. "There she is." I wondered how much spine remained. Amelia sat. "Say what you called me here to say." Celeste stirred her tea once. Vivienne did exactly what I asked. The room became very still. Amelia heard the faint clink of silver against porcelain. "You arranged it." "Yes." "You wanted me to see them." "Of course." "Does Dominic know?" "He knows what is useful." Amelia placed both hands beneath the table. "My mistake was believing your son was free." Celeste's eyes sharpened. Dominic was born into responsibility. He was born into fear and taught to call it duty. You confuse ordinary struggle with moral superiority. I never wanted your money? No. You wanted something more dangerous. You wanted his attention away from the family. I wanted a husband. You married a Vale. That was never the role. Celeste opened a leather folder and slid several documents across the table. Amelia did not touch them. "What is that, a clean exit?" Celeste described the terms with the calm of someone discussing property. A private residence through the pregnancy, full medical care, security, a generous settlement, a confidentiality agreement. After the birth, custody would be arranged to preserve the child's place within the Vale family. Amelia looked up. Preserve her place. The Vale name offers protection. The Vale name offers ownership. Celeste's smile faded. You are a school librarian with no meaningful savings. Your father's care is expensive. Your sister's bakery barely survives winter. You have no private security and no understanding of the people who may use your child to reach Dominic. My child is not a Vale asset. She is Vale blood. She belongs to herself. That is a beautiful sentence. Judges prefer evidence. Amelia's hands began to tremble. She closed them into fists beneath the table. You hired Grant Ellison. I hired the best. You filed documents in Dominic's name. Dominic's name belongs to this family. No, it belongs to him. Celeste leaned back. You still believe individuality matters. It is one of the luxuries of powerless people. Amelia stood. Celeste remained seated. You have not heard the amount. I heard enough. You want a war. Amelia looked down at her. No, you do. Celeste lifted her cup. I want order. War is what happens when people like you refuse it. Amelia walked out before Celeste could see the tears forming. By 4 that afternoon, Tessa had called in a favor. By 6, Amelia sat inside a small law office above a bookstore. The office smelled of old paper radiator heat and burnt coffee. Naomi Pierce listened from behind a desk covered in neatly arranged files. She was in her 40s with dark hair cut to her jaw and reading glasses low on her nose. Her navy suit had none of Celeste's elegance. It looked chosen for battle. She did not interrupt while Amelia described the restaurant, the letter Dominic Celeste, the custody petition, and the settlement offer. When Amelia finished, Naomi folded her hands. Do you have documents? Amelia opened her bag. She removed bank statements, copies of emails, security invoices, photographs of ledgers, messages from Celeste, and records of medical appointments Dominic had missed. Tessa stared at the papers. When did you collect all of this? Amelia looked down. I do not know. Naomi examined the first folder. You knew something was wrong. I kept telling myself I was trying to understand his world. Naomi turned a page. You were preparing. Amelia swallowed. I was surviving. Naomi looked up, not with pity, with respect. Survival leaves records. She spent the next hour reading. Then she removed her glasses. Celeste is not treating this as a family dispute. She is treating you as a threat. And Dominic. That depends on whether he intends to be your husband or her son. The answer came the next morning. Grant Ellison sent a formal notice. The document claimed Amelia had abandoned the marital residence, refused reasonable communication, and displayed paranoid behavior related to pregnancy stress. It suggested that emotional instability might place the child at risk after birth. Amelia read the paragraph twice. They make it sound like I ran away because I imagined an affair. Naomi sat across from her at Tessa's kitchen table. That is the strategy. They do not mention Celeste. No, they do not mention the restaurant setup. No, they mention me crying, leaving, turning off my phone. They are writing the story before you can speak. Amelia stared at the pages. For years she had heard Dominic and his men talk about leverage, money, secrets, fear. Now she understood the cruelest form of leverage was the ability to rename another person's pain. Her grief became instability. Her escape became abandonment. Her silence became evidence. Naomi pointed to the final paragraph. They are also requesting access to your medical information. Can they get it? Not without a fight. Amelia placed one hand over her stomach. I do not know how to protect her from people who own half of Boston. Naomi's voice remained steady. You begin by not confusing fear with defeat. That afternoon, Amelia walked to Naomi's office to sign a response. The air was brutally cold. Snow gathered along the edges of the sidewalk. Amelia moved slowly, supporting the weight of her stomach with one hand. A black vehicle stopped beside the curb. Dominic stepped out. He wore only a suit jacket despite the cold, as though he had left somewhere in a hurry and forgotten weather applied to him. "Amelia." She turned toward the office entrance. "Do not." He crossed the sidewalk but stopped several feet away. "I did not hire Ellison. Your mother did. That is not the same." Amelia faced him. "It becomes the same when you let her use your name. I told her to withdraw everything." "Did she?" Dominic said nothing. Snow gathered in his dark hair. Amelia nodded. "That is what I thought." His eyes moved to her stomach. "I confronted her about the restaurant. After she succeeded. I should have seen it. Yes. I should have stopped it. Yes. I should have protected you." The final word escaped Amelia more quietly. "Yes." Dominic took one step closer. Then he stopped himself. That restraint hurt almost as much as his failures. He gestured toward the vehicle. "You are freezing." "I am fine." "You are not." "No, Dominic. I am not. The cold is not the reason." A contraction of pressure tightened low in her back. She placed a hand against her side. Dominic noticed. His face changed. "Get in the car." Amelia's eyes hardened. "Do not order me." He closed his mouth. When he spoke again, his voice was different. 5 minutes. The doors stay unlocked. Call Naomi and keep her on speaker. You may leave whenever you choose." Amelia looked toward the office. The entrance was only a few steps away. The car looked warm. Exhaustion made the distance between them feel larger. 5 minutes. Dominic opened the rear door. Amelia shook her head. "I am not sitting behind you." He nodded and opened the passenger door instead. Inside, heat wrapped around her. Dominic remained behind the wheel with both hands visible. He did not lock the doors. Naomi answered on the second ring. "I am listening," she said through the speaker. Dominic drove one block, then another. "I moved out of the penthouse," he said. Amelia looked at him. "Why?" "Every room sounded like you leaving." She turned toward the window. "Do not say beautiful things unless you understand what they cost." "I know." "No. You think pain is something you can endure because endurance is familiar to you. My pain was ordinary." Dominic's hands tightened around the steering wheel. "It was breakfast alone. It was medical appointments you missed. It was your mother correcting my clothes while you asked me not to provoke her. It was lying beside you and feeling like the other woman in your marriage to power." The traffic light ahead turned red. Dominic stopped. "I gave the Empire the best of me," he said. "I gave you what remained." Amelia looked at him. The old Dominic would have defended himself. He would have explained the docs, the investigations, the family name. This Dominic sounded like the truth had finally reached somewhere he could not armor. He continued. "I told my mother that if she does not withdraw the petition, I will leave the family." Amelia laughed softly. "You would never." "I will. You will threaten it. Someone will call. A shipment will vanish. A captain will betray you. Your mother will tell you the Vale name needs you, and you will choose the throne because it knows how to need you louder than I do." Dominic's face went pale beneath the winter light. A horn sounded behind them. The traffic light had changed. He did not move. Amelia looked forward. "The light is green. Let them wait. That is the problem. You believe the world can wait whenever you are hurting." Dominic drove to Naomi's office. He stopped at the curb. Amelia reached for the door. "Tell me what to do," he said. She kept her hand on the handle. "I want you to stop asking me to teach you how to become a husband after I had to leave to get your attention." His throat moved. "Amelia, when your mother attacks me, stop telling me she is not you." She opened the door. "Make her not you." 3 days later, Grant requested a formal meeting. Naomi refused. He requested again this time, offering to delay all filings if Amelia agreed to hear revised terms. Naomi read the message aloud. "It is a trap." Tessa crossed her arms. "Then, we do not go." Amelia sat on the office couch with both hands folded over her stomach. "I want to see Celeste." "No," Naomi said. "I need to know what she wants. She wants control." "No. Control is how she gets it." Tessa's face tightened. "She wants the baby." The room became silent. Amelia looked down at her stomach. "Then I need to hear her say it." The meeting took place in a glass conference room overlooking Casco Bay. Celeste sat beside Grant Ellison at the far end of a polished table. Dominic was not present. Amelia noticed. Celeste noticed her noticing. "My son's presence is unnecessary." Amelia sat across from her. "You always preferred speaking for him." Grant offered a professional smile. "Let us remain productive." Naomi placed a folder on the table. "Then stop threatening my client." "No one is threatening anyone," Grant said. "We are discussing stability for the child." "My child," Amelia said. Celeste's gaze moved toward her stomach. "Vale blood." Amelia felt Naomi shift beside her. Celeste opened a folder. "We will provide a residence through the birth, full medical care, security, staff, financial support. After delivery, we will establish an arrangement that gives you generous access while preserving the child's proper place. You want me kept. I want my granddaughter safe. From what poverty, instability, pride? I can love her. Love is not a secure home. Love is not an education. Love is not protection." "No," Amelia said. "Love is why I know she is not property." Celeste opened another document. "Your sister has $11,000 in credit card debt." Tessa had never told Amelia the full amount. Amelia's hands went cold. "The bakery is behind on rent," Celeste continued. "Your father's care costs nearly $5,000 each month. Your family's financial condition is unsustainable. You investigated them. I assessed risk. You searched for weakness. I found reality." Naomi closed her folder. "This meeting is over." Celeste raised one finger. "There is one more matter." Amelia remained still. "Vivienne Mercer is pregnant." The words did not explode. They removed the air from the room. Grant looked down at the papers in front of him. Celeste's voice softened. 3 months. Amelia could not breathe. Naomi spoke first. "Produce verified medical records." "In time." Celeste slid a photograph across the table. Vivienne was leaving a private clinic wearing dark glasses. One hand rested over her stomach. Amelia stared at it. "That proves nothing," Naomi said. Celeste watched Amelia. "If the matter becomes public, a court will see a wife who abandoned her husband after discovering another woman may be carrying his child. It creates an unfortunate impression." Amelia lifted her eyes. "You made her do this too. Vivienne understands sacrifice?" "No." Amelia stood. "She understands payment." Grant's expression shifted. Only slightly. Amelia noticed. Celeste leaned back. "You are outmatched. I am not making a deal with the woman who tried to purchase my daughter before she took her first breath. Sit down." "No. Control your client," Celeste told Naomi. Naomi stood beside Amelia. "My client is leaving." Amelia reached the elevator before her knees weakened. She placed one hand against the wall and dragged air into her lungs. Naomi caught her arm. She may be lying. She looked pleased. Cruel people often do. The elevator doors opened. Amelia stepped inside. In the mirrored wall, she saw a pale woman with frightened eyes and a hand pressed over her unborn child, cornered, but standing. By the time Amelia returned to Tessa's apartment, she had made a decision. Tessa opened the door and saw it immediately. No. Amelia walked toward the bedroom. I need the gray suitcase. No. She knows about your debts. We handle them. She knows about Dad. We handle that too. She knows where I sleep, where you work, and how much your landlord wants for the building. Tessa followed her. So we fight here. She will make here unsafe. She does not get to push you out of every place. Amelia stopped beside the bed. She does not want me gone. She wants me desperate. Tessa's eyes filled. Where will you go? Amelia removed a folded paper from her coat pocket. Rockport, Massachusetts, Maine. Naomi has a friend with a cabin outside town. In winter. Yes. 6 months pregnant. Yes. You cannot keep running. Amelia looked at her sister. I only need enough distance to hear myself think. They packed in silence. Clothes, vitamins, medical records, cash, the ultrasound photograph, her mother's silver cross. Tessa placed a jar of bakery cookies inside the suitcase and cried angrily while doing it. Near midnight, they stood beside the apartment door. Tessa held Amelia carefully. Call me when you arrive. I will. Promise. Amelia closed her eyes. I promise. At the bus station, she paid cash for a ticket north. She sat near the back with her suitcase beneath her feet. Her phone began to ring. Dominic. She watched his name glow across the screen. Then it stopped. A message appeared. Please, talk to me. Amelia turned off the phone. Outside the window, Portland disappeared beneath falling snow. The road stretched north through forests and dark fields. No Dominic, no Celeste, no lawyers. Only the highway and the steady movement beneath Amelia's palm. She leaned her head against the cold glass. I do not know where we are going, she whispered to her daughter, but no one is choosing it for us. Hours later, the bus stopped near Rockport beneath a sky the color of steel. Amelia stepped onto the frozen pavement, carrying one suitcase and a life she barely recognized. Far behind her, Dominic stood alone inside the Vale penthouse, listening to the final voicemail Vivienne Mercer had left before disappearing from Boston. Her voice shook. I am not pregnant. A long silence followed. Then she said the words that changed the shape of everything Dominic believed about his family. Your mother has done this before. Vivienne's voice trembled through the speaker. Dominic stood alone in the penthouse, staring at Amelia's empty chair. What does that mean? For several seconds, there was only static. Then Vivienne whispered, Ask what happened to your father when he tried to leave. The call ended. Dominic remained still. Outside the windows, Boston glittered beneath the snow. The harbor lights moved across black water. The city looked orderly from that height, as if every street and building had agreed to remain where power placed it. Dominic looked down at the phone. Anthony Vale had died 7 years earlier. The official cause had been heart failure. There had been no investigation, no questions. Celeste had arranged the funeral before Dominic had finished understanding that his father was gone. At the time, grief had made obedience easy. Now Vivienne's final sentence opened a door Dominic had never known existed. Hundreds of miles north, Amelia arrived in Rockport beneath a sky the color of cold steel. The bus pulled away, leaving her beside a quiet station with one suitcase, a folded address, and snow gathering along the shoulders of her coat. The town was smaller than she expected. Low buildings faced the harbor. Fishing boats rocked beyond the docks. Smoke lifted from chimneys and vanished into the gray air. Nothing moved quickly. No black vehicles waited at the curb. No men watched from doorways. No one recognized her name. Amelia stood beneath the station awning and placed one hand over her stomach. The baby shifted. "We are here," she whispered. Naomi's friend owned a cabin outside town near a narrow road lined with pine trees. A taxi driver named Walter took Amelia there without asking why a pregnant woman had arrived alone in the middle of winter. He carried her suitcase to the porch and pointed toward the lock. "Key is under the blue flower pot." "Thank you. You have food?" "Some." "That means no." Amelia almost smiled. Walter nodded toward the road. "Market closes at 6. Clinic is near the church. Storm is coming tomorrow night. I will remember." He returned to the taxi, then stopped. "Cell service fails when the wind comes off the water. Write down the clinic number." Amelia watched him leave. The cabin was small and weathered. Its white paint had faded to gray. One porch rail leaned away from the steps. The front door resisted before opening with a long wooden groan. Inside, the air smelled of cedar dust and cold stone. The furniture did not match. A narrow couch faced a fireplace. The kitchen floor tilted toward the sink. Curtains moved slightly when the wind pressed against the windows. Nothing had been chosen by Celeste. Nothing carried the Vale family crest. No guards waited beyond the walls. Amelia closed the door and leaned against it. For the first time since the restaurant, she took a full breath. Then her knees weakened. She slid to the floor, still wearing her coat. The suitcase remained beside her. One hand covered her mouth, the other curved over her daughter. Tears came quietly. There was no audience, no lawyer, no husband asking her to explain, no mother arranging the shape of her pain. Amelia cried until exhaustion emptied her. Then she stood. She found blankets inside a cedar chest and wrapped herself in 2 of them. She turned on the heat. Pipes knocked behind the walls as the cabin slowly woke. She unpacked only what she needed. Vitamins in the bathroom cabinet. Cash beneath a loose floorboard near the bed. Medical records inside the kitchen cupboard. Her mother's silver cross beside the lamp. The ultrasound photograph taped inside the closet door where only she could see it. That night, snow began to fall. Amelia made tea and stood by the kitchen window. The trees disappeared into white. Silence filled the cabin. In Boston, silence had always meant someone was speaking in a room she could not enter. At Celeste's table, silence meant judgment. Beside Dominic, silence meant another question swallowed before it became dangerous. Here, silence had no meaning yet. It waited for Amelia to decide whether it was peace or loneliness. The baby kicked. Amelia pressed her palm against the movement. "I am trying," she said. 2 mornings later, dizziness brought her to the floor. Amelia had been standing beside the kitchen counter when the room tilted. Black spots moved across her vision. She caught the edge of the sink before she fell. Her breathing became shallow. The baby moved hard beneath her ribs. Fear entered faster than thought. Amelia pulled on her coat and walked toward town. Each step took more effort than the last. The clinic stood beside a white church near the harbor. A wooden ramp had been cleared of snow. A bell rang above the door when Amelia entered. A woman behind the reception desk looked up. Her eyes moved from Amelia's face to her stomach. "Can I help you? I need a doctor. Do you have an appointment?" "No." The woman stood. "Sit down before you answer anything else." 20 minutes later, Amelia sat on an examination table while Dr. Hannah Cole wrapped a blood pressure cuff around her arm. Dr. Cole was in her late 50s with short gray hair, warm brown skin, and the steady expression of a woman who had spent years telling frightened people the truth. "When are you due?" "About 3 months." "About is not a date." Amelia gave her the information. Dr. Cole checked her blood pressure twice. She listened to the baby's heartbeat and studied Amelia's medical records. You are dehydrated. I have been traveling. Your pressure is higher than I like. I have been under stress. Dr. Cole set the chart down. You running from someone? Amelia looked up. No. The answer came too quickly. Dr. Cole did not react. You arrived in town alone, 6 months pregnant, paying cash, wearing shoes that are useless in snow and looking at the door every time it opens. Amelia lowered her eyes. I am not in immediate danger. That was not my question. The room remained quiet. Dr. Cole waited. The waiting was not pressure. It was space. I needed somewhere no one knew me, Amelia said. Dr. Cole nodded once. That is an answer. I cannot stay long. You can stay long enough to drink water and eat something. I can pay. I did not ask. Amelia blinked. Dr. Cole pulled the stool closer. People do not have to own you before they help you. The words entered gently. They still hurt. Amelia looked away before tears could rise. Dr. Cole pretended not to notice. You need weekly visits. More food. Less walking alone. I also want you to meet someone who works with women leaving controlling homes. My husband never hit me. Dr. Cole's expression did not change. That is not the only way a home becomes dangerous. Amelia stared at her hands. I do not know what to call what happened. You do not have to name it today. Dr. Cole wrote an address on a piece of paper. This is June Parker's diner. Tell her I sent you. I am not hungry. The baby is. Amelia left the clinic carrying vitamins, a bottle of water, and instructions she had not been forced to earn. June's diner stood near the harbor behind windows clouded with steam. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, bacon, and cinnamon. A woman with silver streaks in her dark hair approached with a pot in one hand. You look frozen. I feel frozen. Sit down before you prove it. Amelia slid into a booth. Tea, please. Food. I am not very hungry. June placed a menu on the table. I did not ask. The words were almost the same as Dr. Cole's. This time Amelia smiled. Eggs and toast. June brought eggs, toast, and pancakes. I did not order these. The baby did. At the next table, an older man folded his newspaper. His face was weathered, his hands rough from years of work. You staying at Miriam's cabin? Amelia went still. June looked at him. Samuel. He raised both hands. I am only asking because the porch rail is broken. Amelia studied him. How do you know I fixed it badly last winter? June poured his coffee. You fixed it sober last winter. That was the problem. Samuel ignored her. I can come by tomorrow. That is not necessary. Most useful things are not. The next morning, Samuel arrived with a toolbox and a thermos of soup. He repaired the porch rail without asking questions. Amelia watched from the doorway. When he finished, she tried to pay him. He shook his head. June made too much soup. I meant for the repair. So did I. He handed her the thermos. Then he looked at the cabin. Big houses are not always safe houses. Amelia felt something tighten in her chest. You know that from experience. Samuel placed his tools inside the truck. Everyone old knows that from experience. He left before she could ask more. Days began to take shape. Amelia visited Dr. Cole. She ate breakfast at June's diner. She called Tessa from a phone Naomi had arranged. She walked only when the weather allowed. She began sleeping for more than an hour at a time. No one in Rockport asked for the complete story. They offered help without demanding access to her wounds. In Boston, Dominic sat across from Marcus Hale inside a private office. A map of Maine lay open between them. We found the bus route, Marcus said. She went north. Dominic stared at the map. Can you locate her? Yes. How station cameras? Taxi records. Phone activity. We can narrow it down before morning. Dominic looked toward Amelia's letter. He had carried it in his coat since the night she left. No cameras. Marcus frowned. You asked me to find out if she was safe. I asked you to find out. I did not ask you to enter her life. An enemy may not respect that distinction. Then protect the roads. Without knowing where she is, Dominic's voice became quiet. No one follows Tessa. No one enters Naomi's office. No one contacts the clinic records in Maine. Marcus studied him. You have never stopped a search because the person did not want to be found. Dominic folded the map. I have never understood why someone needed to hide from me. Marcus said nothing. Dominic turned toward the window. Find Vivienne. That search took less than a day. Vivienne had checked into a hotel outside Providence under another name. She refused to meet Dominic. She agreed to meet Naomi. The meeting took place in a private room at Naomi's office after dark. Amelia joined by secure video from the cabin. Vivienne entered wearing no makeup. Her hair was tied back. There were shadows beneath her eyes. Without cameras and designer clothing, she looked younger, more frightened. Naomi placed a recorder on the table. You requested protection in exchange for a statement. Vivienne nodded. My father will kill me if he learns I spoke. Then speak clearly. Vivienne looked toward the screen. Amelia's face appeared in a small square. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Vivienne lowered her eyes. I am not pregnant. Amelia remained still. The clinic photograph Celeste paid an employee to let me use a private exit. The preliminary paperwork was false. Why, Vivienne swallowed. My father used my modeling company to move money through international contracts. My brother discovered it and tried to take records to federal investigators. Naomi leaned forward. What did Celeste threaten my brother's arrest? My father's accounts. My career. Amelia's voice came through the speaker. So you agreed to destroy my marriage? Vivienne looked at the screen. I agreed to create a photograph. You held my husband's hand after you saw me. Yes. You delayed him when he tried to follow me. Yes. Why, Vivienne's face tightened. Because Celeste told me my brother would disappear if I failed. Amelia's voice remained calm. You decided my family could absorb the damage. Tears entered Vivienne's eyes. Yes. The honesty did not soften Amelia. It only made the wound more precise. Did Dominic touch you before that night? No. Did he meet you privately? Never by choice. Did he know about the pregnancy claim? No. Amelia looked away from the screen. Naomi asked, What did you mean when you said Celeste had done this before Vivienne wiped one cheek? My father told me Anthony Vale wanted to dissolve the family's illegal companies before he died. Dominic stood in the adjoining room behind the glass. He had agreed not to enter unless Naomi called him. At the sound of his father's name, his body went still. Vivienne continued. Anthony was preparing to cooperate with federal investigators. He planned to move Dominic away from Boston. Naomi glanced toward the glass. How do you know my father was part of the shipping agreement? Celeste threatened him with the same kind of exposure she used against me. And Anthony. He became sick before he could leave. Amelia looked back at the screen. Are you saying Celeste killed him? I do not know. Vivienne's voice shook. But she told my father that men who confuse love with escape often discover how permanent family can be. Behind the glass, Dominic closed his eyes. Naomi ended the meeting after Vivienne signed a statement and surrendered copies of financial records. Amelia remained on the screen. Dominic entered only after Naomi asked whether she wanted him there. Amelia hesitated. Then she said, Let him hear it. Dominic stepped into the room. He looked at the screen, not at Vivienne. Are you safe? Amelia's expression hardened. That cannot be your first question every time. He stopped. You are right. Silence followed. Vivienne stood. I am sorry. Amelia looked at her. Being sorry does not restore what you helped break. I know. No. You know you are afraid. That is not the same. Vivienne accepted the words. She left with Naomi's investigator. Dominic remained facing the screen. I stopped the search. Amelia looked at him. Why? Because you asked me not to use my name to open the door. That did not stop you before. No. He did not defend himself. Amelia noticed. Dominic continued. I need to investigate my father's death. Then do it. My mother may come after you. She already has. I can put security near the town. No. Amelia. No men outside the cabin. No cars following me. No one watching the clinic. His instincts rose visibly. Then he controlled them. What will you allow? She considered the question. Naomi can coordinate with the local sheriff. You can provide information about threats. Nothing more. Dominic nodded. I will follow that. The call ended. Dominic remained staring at the dark screen. Naomi entered carrying a folder. There is something else. She placed a financial statement on the table. Amelia had copied it months earlier from one of Celeste's private accounts. A payment had been made 7 years ago to a laboratory in New Hampshire. The date was 3 days before Anthony Vale's death. The description listed private toxicology consultation. Dominic sat. What was tested? We do not know. Naomi opened another file. The official hospital report listed cardiac failure. A private report was ordered, then withdrawn. By whom? Your mother's attorney. Dominic read the pages. A nurse named Paula Bennett had signed the intake form. She resigned 2 weeks later. Her address disappeared from public records. Naomi looked at him. If you want the truth, you need federal authority. Dominic's hands rested flat on the table. Federal authority meant exposure. Not only Celeste, him. Every payment, every threat, every order he had signed, every man harmed under the Vale name. Naomi watched him understand. You do not become innocent because you finally found someone you cannot bear to lose. Dominic lifted his eyes. I know. No immunity agreement will erase your part. I know. You may go to prison. I know. Naomi studied him. What changed? Dominic looked down at Amelia's letter. She left. That only explains why you are afraid. He folded the paper carefully. She also told the truth. The federal meeting took place before dawn. Dominic entered through a private garage beneath the courthouse. 2 prosecutors waited inside a conference room with an investigator from the Organized Crime Division. They placed a recorder on the table. One prosecutor opened a folder. You understand that cooperation does not guarantee immunity? Yes. You understand that any false statement ends the agreement? Yes. You understand that evidence may be used against you? Dominic looked at the recorder. Yes. He spent 6 hours giving them names, accounts, routes, judges, port officials, police contacts, companies used to move cash, men who had disappeared after refusing orders. He handed over ledgers stored beneath the Marblehead estate. He provided passwords to private servers. He gave them the location of Anthony's original medical file. With every answer, another part of the Vale empire loosened from the ground. When the prosecutor asked why he was cooperating, Dominic did not mention redemption. He did not mention love. My mother threatened my wife and child. The prosecutor leaned back. You threatened many people's wives and children. Dominic met his eyes. Yes. The answer remained in the room. No excuse followed. That evening, Dominic drove alone to the Marblehead estate. Celeste sat in the library beneath Anthony's portrait. A fire burned behind her. She did not look surprised when Dominic entered. "You have been speaking to federal agents." Dominic placed the private toxicology report on the table. "You poisoned him." Celeste looked at the paper. "Your father had a weak heart. Digitalis was found in his blood. A medicine can become dangerous in the wrong amount. You changed the report." Celeste lifted her eyes. "Lower your voice." Dominic almost laughed. Even now, she believed tone mattered more than murder. "He wanted to leave," Dominic said. "He wanted to destroy everything your grandfather built. He wanted to make the companies legitimate. He wanted to make us ordinary. And you killed him." Celeste stood. Her face remained composed, but anger moved behind her eyes. "I saved this family. You saved a throne. I saved you." "No." Dominic stepped closer. "You taught me that control was love. You trained me to fear every person who might ask me to become human." Celeste's mouth tightened. "That woman has made you weak. Amelia made me see what strength had become in this house. You would destroy your blood for her." Dominic looked toward his father's portrait. "Amelia did not destroy this family. She was the first person brave enough to leave it." Celeste studied him. Then she understood. "You gave them the ledgers." "Yes." "The accounts." "Yes." "My private files." "Yes." For the first time, Celeste lost control of her expression. "You stupid, ungrateful boy." Dominic's voice remained calm. "You killed my father. I protected your inheritance. You threatened my daughter before she was born. I protected her from a weak mother." Dominic moved so quickly that Celeste stepped back. He stopped himself before touching her. That restraint frightened her more than violence would have. "You do not say Amelia's name again." Celeste recovered. "You think federal agents will save her?" Dominic went still. Celeste smiled. "You should have learned by now. Doors open both ways." Dominic reached for his phone. At the same time, 2 black vehicles turned onto the road outside Amelia's clinic in Rockport. She saw them through the waiting room window. Her body recognized the shape before her mind did. Black paint, tinted windows, Boston plates. Amelia stood. Dr. Cole looked up from the desk. "What is it?" "Lock the door." 2 men stepped from the first vehicle. They wore dark coats and moved with the calm of people accustomed to being obeyed. Amelia took out her phone. Her hand shook, but her voice did not. She called Naomi. "They found me." Dr. Cole locked the front entrance. June appeared from the treatment room carrying a heavy wooden chair. Samuel's truck turned across the rear access road and stopped sideways, blocking it. One of the men knocked. "Mrs. Vale." Amelia activated the recorder on her phone. "I am not leaving with you. We were sent to bring you somewhere safe." "I am safe." The man looked through the glass. "Mr. Vale is concerned." Amelia knew the lie immediately. Dominic would not send men after promising not to search. Which Mr. Vale? The man said nothing. Sirens sounded in the distance. The second man glanced toward the road. The first struck the door with his palm. "You are making this harder than it needs to be." Amelia stepped closer to the glass. "No, I am making it impossible." The sheriff's vehicles arrived from both directions. Federal agents followed minutes later. The men were arrested before they reached their cars. Inside the clinic, Amelia lowered the phone. Her knees weakened. Dr. Cole caught her. "You are all right." Amelia looked through the window. Samuel remained beside his truck. June stood near the door. The receptionist held Amelia's coat. No one had asked who owned her. They had simply stood between her and danger. Amelia covered her face with one hand. For the first time, protection did not feel like a cage. Before sunrise the next morning, federal agents surrounded the Vale estate. Celeste stood at the top of the staircase wearing a black dress. Dominic entered behind the lead investigator. She looked at him as agents moved through the house. "You think Amelia will love you after she learns everything you have done?" Dominic held her gaze. "She does not owe me love." An agent approached with handcuffs. Celeste looked toward the portrait of Anthony, then back at her son. "You will regret choosing a woman over your family." Dominic's face did not change. "I am choosing the truth over what you taught me to call family." The handcuffs closed around Celeste's wrists. At that exact moment, hundreds of miles north, Amelia woke to a sharp pain beneath her stomach. Wind struck the cabin windows. Snow moved against the glass in thick white sheets. Amelia sat up slowly. Another pain came, stronger. She placed both feet on the floor. Warm water spread across the wooden boards. For 1 second she stared down at it. Then she reached for the phone. Outside, the storm swallowed the road. Inside, Amelia pressed one hand against her belly as the first contraction tightened through her body. "Rose," she whispered. "Not yet." The lights flickered. The cabin went dark. For one breath, Amelia heard nothing but the storm pressing against the windows and the water dripping from the edge of her nightgown onto the floor. Then another contraction moved through her. She gripped the bedpost. The pain began low in her back and tightened around her stomach until the room seemed to narrow. "Rose," she whispered, "you need to wait." The child did not listen. Amelia reached for her phone. One bar of service remained. She called Dr. Cole. The doctor answered before the second ring. "Tell me what happened." "My water broke. How far apart are the contractions I do not know. Time the next one." Amelia breathed through the pressure. "The power is out." "I know. Half the town lost it. Can you get here?" A pause. "The road to the cabin is already closing." Fear moved through Amelia faster than the pain. Dr. Cole's voice sharpened. "Listen to me. You are not alone. Put on dry clothes. Pack your records. Stay away from the stairs. I am sending help." Amelia looked toward the black windows. "Who?" "Everyone." The call ended. Amelia moved slowly through the cabin, one hand on the furniture, the other beneath her stomach. She changed clothes between contractions. She placed her medical records, phone charger, silver cross, and the ultrasound photograph inside a small bag. Outside headlights appeared through the snow. Samuel's truck pushed into the driveway with chains around the tires. June sat beside him holding blankets. Behind them came the sheriff's vehicle. Samuel reached the porch before Amelia opened the door. "You chose a dramatic night," he said. Amelia tried to answer. Another contraction stole her voice. Samuel's expression changed. He stepped back without touching her. "Tell me what you need." The question steadied her. "Help me to the truck." June wrapped a blanket around Amelia's shoulders. The three of them moved carefully through the snow. The wind struck hard enough to make breathing difficult. Inside the truck, June held Amelia's hand while Samuel drove toward town. The sheriff cleared the road ahead. Trees bent beneath the storm. Snow erased the edges of the highway. Every few minutes, the tires slid before finding the road again. Amelia closed her eyes. She thought of Boston, the penthouse, the restaurant, Dominic standing in the bedroom doorway. She opened her eyes again. This was not Boston. No one here was taking her anywhere against her will. They were helping because she had asked. At the clinic, Dr. Cole examined her and immediately called the hospital. "The baby is early, but her heartbeat is strong." Amelia gripped the edge of the examination table. "Can we stay here? You need equipment I do not have. The road is closed." "It is not closed to people who are stubborn enough." June looked toward the window. "That describes everyone in this town." An ambulance arrived 20 minutes later. Dr. Cole climbed inside with Amelia. Samuel and June followed in the truck. The journey to the hospital took nearly an hour. In Boston, Naomi's phone rang while federal agents were still searching the Vale estate. She answered and immediately turned toward Dominic. "Amelia is in labor." For the first time that morning, Celeste's arrest disappeared from his face. How early? Nearly 10 weeks. Dominic looked toward the windows. Snow covered the drive. "Where is she?" Naomi held his gaze. "She gave me permission to tell you the hospital. Nothing more." Dominic nodded. He did not ask for the cabin address. He did not call Marcus. He did not demand a helicopter or a private road. He took his coat from a chair. A federal prosecutor stepped into his path. "You are not finished here. My daughter is being born. You are still required to complete your statement." Dominic looked at him. For a moment, the old command returned to his posture. Then he stopped. "What do you need before I leave?" The prosecutor studied him. "Your signature on the final search authorization, confirmation of the server passwords, an agreement to return tomorrow." Dominic signed every page. He provided the passwords. He surrendered his passport. Then he left. The storm turned the drive north into a slow battle. Dominic traveled without guards. A state officer drove the first vehicle. Naomi sat in the second with Dominic. Neither spoke for most of the journey. The roads narrowed as they moved along the coast. Dominic stared through the windshield. "What did the doctor say? Amelia is stable. And the baby, still strong." He nodded once. His hands remained closed in his lap. Naomi watched him. "You understand that arriving does not mean she will let you inside. Yes. You cannot use this moment to force reconciliation. I know. You cannot turn fear into authority." Dominic looked at her. "I know." Naomi faced the road again. "Then remember it when the doors are in front of you." At the hospital, Amelia's contractions had grown stronger. Dr. Cole stood near the monitor. Tessa arrived after driving from Portland until a highway closure forced her into a sheriff's vehicle. She entered Amelia's room with snow in her hair and tears already on her face. "You could not wait for daylight?" Amelia laughed weakly. Apparently, she inherited impatience. Tessa took her hand. "Not from you." Another contraction came. Amelia turned her face toward the pillow and breathed until the pressure passed. A nurse entered. "Amelia, the baby's father, has arrived." The room became still. Tessa looked toward the door. Dr. Cole looked at Amelia. The nurse continued carefully. "He is waiting outside the maternity unit." Amelia closed her eyes. Dominic had found the hospital, but he had not entered. He had not sent anyone ahead. He was waiting. "Does he have security with him?" Amelia asked. "No. His phone I do not know." Amelia opened her eyes. "Tell him he may come in if he leaves his phone outside." Tessa leaned closer. "You do not have to do this." "I know." The nurse left. Several minutes passed. Then Dominic appeared in the doorway. He wore a dark sweater beneath his coat. Snow had melted into his hair. His face was pale from cold and exhaustion. He stopped at the threshold. Amelia looked at his empty hands. "Your phone with Naomi. Any weapons? No. Any men in the hallway? No." Dominic's eyes moved to the monitor, then to Amelia's face. "May I come closer?" The question touched every part of her that remembered the bedroom doorway. Amelia held his gaze. "Yes." He crossed the room slowly. Another contraction tightened through her. Dominic reached toward her, then stopped before touching her hand. Amelia saw the hesitation. She placed her fingers inside his. His grip remained gentle. "Do not make me regret this," she whispered. Dominic swallowed. "I will not promise what I cannot control." She looked at him. "What can you promise? If you tell me to leave, I will leave." The words were not beautiful. They were useful. Amelia closed her eyes and held his hand as the pain rose. Hours passed. The storm continued beyond the windows. Doctors moved in and out. The baby's heartbeat changed twice, then steadied. Dominic remained beside the bed, but never answered a question directed at Amelia. When a nurse asked whether Amelia wanted medication, he stayed silent. When the doctor discussed the possibility of surgery, he looked at Amelia and waited. When Tessa told him to move, he moved. Shortly before dawn, Rose Eleanor Hart-Vale entered the world with a thin cry that seemed too small for the fear surrounding it. The room changed. Amelia began to weep. The doctor placed Rose against her chest. She was tiny, red-faced, and furious. Her fingers opened against Amelia's skin. "Hello," Amelia whispered. "You came early." Dominic stood beside the bed with tears moving down his face. He did not hide them. Amelia looked at him. "Would you like to hold her?" His expression broke. "May I?" "Yes." The nurse helped place Rose inside his arms. Dominic stared down at his daughter. He had held guns, contracts, money, and the hands of dying men. Nothing had ever frightened him like the weight of that child. "Rose," he whispered. Her eyes remained closed. "You do not know me yet." Amelia watched him. Dominic touched one finger to Rose's palm. The baby closed her hand around it. His shoulders shook. "I will earn it," he said. He did not look at Amelia while saying the words. That mattered. Rose remained in the hospital for 3 weeks. She needed help breathing during the first 2 days and spent several nights beneath warm lights while doctors monitored her weight. Amelia stayed beside her. Tessa slept in a chair. Dr. Cole visited every morning. June sent food no one had ordered. Samuel repaired a broken cabinet in Amelia's hospital room after deciding the noise irritated the baby. Dominic stayed at a motel nearby. He visited only during the hours Amelia approved. He never entered without knocking. He brought no flowers, no jewelry, no promises. He sat beside Rose's crib and read children's books in a low voice. His first choice was about a sea turtle crossing the Atlantic. Amelia recognized it. "You still sound like a man reading a confession." Dominic looked up. A faint smile touched his mouth. "I had a better teacher before." The smile disappeared from Amelia's face. Dominic lowered his eyes. "I am sorry." She looked toward Rose. "I know." The words did not mean forgiveness. He understood. While Rose learned to breathe, the Vale Empire began to collapse. Federal agents seized documents from the Marblehead estate, 3 shipping offices, 2 construction companies, and several private clubs. Conrad Mercer was arrested while attempting to leave the country. Grant Ellison surrendered emails showing that Celeste had ordered him to build a false custody case before Amelia left Boston. Vivienne entered protective custody and gave a complete statement. The clinic employee admitted to creating false pregnancy records. Paula Bennett, the nurse who had questioned Anthony Vale's toxicology results, was found living under another name in Vermont. She testified that Celeste had threatened her family and paid her to disappear. The evidence surrounding Anthony's death became impossible to bury. Celeste accepted a plea agreement. She admitted to conspiring to poison Anthony, altering medical records, intimidating witnesses, committing financial fraud, and directing the attempt to force Amelia back to Boston. The judge sentenced her to 30 years in federal prison. She did not look at Dominic when the sentence was read. Dominic faced his own charges. His cooperation exposed officials, companies, and crimes that had remained hidden for decades. It also exposed him. He admitted to financial conspiracy, obstruction, illegal surveillance, bribery, and directing acts of violence. The prosecutor offered a reduced sentence because of his cooperation. Dominic accepted it without negotiation. Before the hearing, he met Amelia inside Naomi's office. Rose slept in a carrier beside her. Dominic placed a folder on the table. Naomi had prepared the documents. Amelia opened them. The first granted her primary custody of Rose. The second prevented Dominic from using investigators' security companies or personal contacts to monitor Amelia. The third placed money for Rose inside an independent trust controlled by Amelia and a court-appointed trustee. The fourth confirmed that Amelia's home medical decisions, employment, and financial records belonged solely to her. The final document stated that all future contact beyond matters involving Rose required Amelia's consent. She read the pages slowly. "You signed everything." "Yes." "You could have challenged primary custody." "Yes." "You could have asked for control of the trust." "Yes." "Why did you not?" Dominic looked toward Rose. "Because you should not have to trust my word when paper can protect you from my power." Amelia closed the folder. "This does not repair what happened. I know. It does not make you safe." "No, it is paperwork." "Yes." Dominic held her gaze. "But paperwork can become a door I am legally forbidden to break." Amelia looked down at his signature. For once, he had placed a limit on himself instead of asking her to believe he would stop. The judge sentenced Dominic to 18 months in a federal facility, followed by supervised release and permanent restrictions on his business activities. He forfeited most of his wealth. The Marblehead estate was sold. The penthouse was seized. Several legitimate Vale companies were transferred to independent ownership to protect employees who had not participated in the crimes. Dominic did not ask Amelia to wait. On the morning he reported to prison, he called her. She answered while feeding Rose. "I wanted to hear her." Amelia placed the phone near the baby. Rose made a soft sound. Dominic was quiet. Then he said, "Thank you. That is all. That is all I am allowed to ask for." Amelia held the phone after the call ended. She did not know whether the ache in her chest was grief-love or the memory of both. Dominic wrote to Rose every week. Amelia allowed one letter each month to be sent to her house. He never asked her to return. He wrote about the ordinary details of his days, the narrow bed, the early lights, the men who recognized his name and expected fear to arrive with it, the counselor who refused to let him call control responsibility. He wrote about Anthony. He remembered a father who had taught him cruelty, then tried too late to escape it. He wondered whether Anthony had wanted to save Dominic, or simply save himself. In one letter he wrote, "I spent most of my life believing that being needed gave me the right to decide. You needed safety, so I decided what safety meant. You needed a husband, so I gave you a protector. You needed honesty, so I chose which truths you could survive. I called all of it love because love was the only word that made control sound noble." Amelia read the paragraph twice. She did not answer. Dominic continued writing. In another letter, he described the night she left. "I remember your face when I stood in the doorway. At the time, I believed I was preventing a mistake. Now I understand that I became the danger I had promised to keep outside our home." Amelia folded that letter and placed it beside the first. During Dominic's sentence, she began building a life that did not depend on his return. She moved from the cabin into a small white house near the harbor. The windows faced the water. The kitchen was narrow. The floor creaked outside Rose's room. Amelia chose every chair, curtain, and plate herself. Tessa expanded the bakery through a small business partnership arranged without Vale money. She repaid her debts slowly. Their father moved to a care facility closer to Portland where Tessa and Amelia could visit without crossing state lines. Amelia returned to work at an elementary school library 3 mornings each week. On her first day, she stood between shelves of picture books while children argued over who could sit closest during story time. The ordinary noise nearly brought her to tears. She began therapy with a counselor recommended by Dr. Cole. At first, Amelia spoke mostly about Dominic. Then she began speaking about herself. She learned how often she had mistaken silence for patience, how frequently she had protected other people from the consequences of hurting her, how difficult it felt to accept help without offering part of herself in return. She learned that leaving had not made her cruel. Loving Dominic had not made her weak. Both truths could exist without erasing each other. Rose grew. She developed Amelia's serious eyes and Dominic's stubborn mouth. She hated peas. She loved the sound of waves. She slept only when someone read the same story 3 times. Dominic left prison 14 months after entering because of his cooperation and conduct. He moved into a rented apartment 15 minutes from Amelia's house. There were no guards, no driver, no gate. He worked with federal monitors to separate legitimate employees from former Vale businesses and helped recover funds for victims. His first visit with Rose took place in Naomi's office. Amelia sat across the room. Dominic entered, carrying no gifts. Rose stared at him from Amelia's lap. "She has grown," he said. "She does that." He smiled. "May I hold her?" Amelia looked at Rose. Then she nodded. Dominic sat on the carpet. Amelia placed Rose in front of him. He did not reach for her immediately. He waited. Rose studied his face. Then she crawled toward his shoe and pulled at the lace. Dominic laughed. The sound filled the room. It was the same surprised laugh Amelia had heard years earlier in the school library. She looked away before the memory could decide too much. Visits continued. At first, Naomi remained present, then Tessa. Later, Amelia allowed Dominic to visit the house. He always knocked, even when it rained, even when Rose saw him through the window and called his name. He never used the spare key Amelia had once offered him during an emergency. He arrived on time. He learned how to warm bottles, change clothes, clean small cuts, and sit beside a child who refused to sleep. He made mistakes. Once Rose developed a fever while Amelia was at work. Dominic called a private doctor in Boston before contacting Amelia. When she discovered it, anger moved through her with immediate force. "You made a medical decision without me. I was afraid. That does not give you authority." "I know. You say that after you act." Dominic looked down. "You are right." He canceled the private consultation and followed Amelia's instructions. He did not defend the decision. He did not explain the danger he had imagined. He accepted that fear was not permission. The moment mattered more than perfection would have. Several months later, Rose sat on the living room floor while Dominic attempted to tie her hair. She pushed his hand away. "No." Dominic stopped immediately. "All right." Rose reached for the ribbon herself. Dominic placed it in her palm. Amelia watched from the kitchen. It was a small moment. No one else would have noticed. Dominic had once stood inside a doorway and believed love gave him the right to say no for her. Now his daughter used the word, and he obeyed without injury to his pride. That night, after Rose fell asleep, Amelia found Dominic standing on the porch. "You can stay for tea," she said. He looked at her. "Are you sure?" "Yes." It was the first invitation unrelated to Rose. They sat at the kitchen table. For several minutes, neither spoke. Dominic looked around the room. "You chose all of this." "I did. It feels like you." Amelia wrapped both hands around her cup. "I used to think the penthouse felt empty because you were never there. And now, it was empty because none of it belonged to me." Dominic nodded. "I am sorry." She looked at him. "You do not have to say it every time we speak." "I know. Then why do you—" "Because some part of me still wants an apology to be useful." Amelia considered that. "It can be useful." His eyes lifted. "It just cannot do the work alone." A year after Dominic's release, Amelia asked him to meet her at the Rockport Library after closing. Rain moved softly against the windows. Children's drawings hung above the reading rug. Dominic arrived at 7, exactly 7. Amelia waited beside a table with an old envelope in front of her. "What is that?" he asked. "The first letter." His face changed. "The one you left, no. The one I could not leave." She pushed the envelope toward him. Inside were pages that had been torn and taped together. Dominic sat. He read silently. The first version held none of the calm precision of the letter he had found beneath her ring. It was angry, uneven, alive. Amelia had written that she hated him for making her love feel foolish. She hated herself for hoping every time he came home early. She admitted that part of her wanted him to chase the train, stop the bus, find the cabin, and prove she mattered enough to destroy the world. Then she wrote that the stronger part of her needed him to learn not to. Dominic finished the final page. His eyes remained lowered. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because you spent 2 years reading the version where I was calm, and this version, this was the truth before I made it beautiful." He folded the pages carefully. "I am sorry." "I know. Is that enough?" "No." Pain crossed his face. He nodded. Amelia continued, "But it is no longer all you have." Dominic looked at her. She removed a small box from her coat pocket. Inside rested the plain gold ring he had given her years earlier. Dominic stared at it. He did not reach for it. "I will not return to the marriage we had," Amelia said. "I would never ask you to. I will not live inside your fear. I know I will not become smaller to make you comfortable. I know if you ever confuse love with ownership again, I will leave." Dominic's voice remained steady. "You should." Amelia took his hand. He looked down at their fingers. "You are not proposing to me," she said. A faint, confused smile touched his face. "No, no." She placed the ring between them. "I am asking whether you want to build something that does not require either of us to disappear." Dominic's eyes filled. "Yes, that was not the question." He breathed in. "Then ask me." Amelia looked toward the reading rug where they had first met years earlier. "Dominic Vale, do you want to build a life with me that begins after power?" His voice broke. "Yes." She picked up the ring. "Then, ask me whether I choose it too." Dominic did not kneel. He did not open a velvet box. He simply held her hand inside the quiet library. "Amelia Hart, do you choose me?" She let the silence remain long enough for the answer to belong entirely to her. Yes. They married beside the Atlantic the following spring. There were no reporters, no politicians, no men carrying weapons beneath expensive coats. Tessa stood beside Amelia. Naomi held Rose during the vows. Dr. Cole sat beside June and Samuel. Vivienne sent a handwritten letter but did not attend. Dominic wore a simple dark suit. No family crest rested on his cuff. Amelia wore her mother's silver cross. When the time came to place the ring on her finger, Dominic stopped. He looked into her eyes. "May I?" Amelia smiled. "Yes." After the ceremony, music drifted across the small garden near the shore. Rose ran between the tables holding flowers in both hands. Tessa laughed as June attempted to teach Samuel to dance. Naomi stood near the water, pretending not to cry. As evening settled, Amelia walked alone toward the edge of the ocean. Waves moved across the darkening sand. Behind her, Dominic approached. He stopped several feet away. He waited. Amelia turned. For years, Dominic had believed love was proved by what a man could protect, purchase, or prevent from leaving. He had lost his home, his name, his money, and the empire that taught him power was the only language anyone respected. The woman before him had required none of it. Amelia reached out her hand. Dominic did not move until she nodded. Then he crossed the distance. She had not returned because he found her. She had returned because he had finally learned how to be found without taking away her choice to leave.